It's your boy Tubby. With me is Lee. We're back for week 5. Week 5 is upon us. We're going to do a quick recap of week 4, then get right into week 5. But this is the Fantasy Waiver Wire. Just a couple of dudes talking fantasy, man. We're just like you. We're just doing it live, man. With me is Lee. It was a crazy week last week. A lot of injuries, a lot to talk about, man. But what's going on, man? How was your fantasy football weekend, Lee?
Well, it was pretty good. It was up and down because I'll tell you what. I want to start by saying to everybody out there that did not start David Montgomery on my advice. I have David Montgomery in my Yahoo league, and for all of those who didn't start him, I apologize because my advice was like, look, the guy is coming off an injury. He was listed as questionable up until like an hour before the game started. My thought was that the Lions were going to run, Jahmyr Gibbs and then bring in Montgomery to spell him and get him slowly back. No, that ain't what happened. Friggin' workhorse out the gate, friggin' ran all over the pack. 3 touchdowns, 34 fantasy points. And yeah, I mean, I took my own advice. He was sitting on my bench. So that was like after Thursday, I was really stressed. I was mad. You know that when you have a big player like that on your bench, it's just not good. So when Sunday rolled around, I thought I would have a chance, and then it was like I did score a lot of points because basically I got McCaffrey. He had 48 points. So basically, and I had 144 overall. So I did okay. I had some rough spots. Alabi only got me 1.4 points. Tucker only 4. TJ Hawkinson only gave me 4 points. So I'm like, I roll into Monday night with 144 points. And I think Gustavo's Rad team, who I was playing, had like 133. He basically only needed like 10 points from Daniel Jones. That's who he had left. And as you can see by the score on the screen, I'm sorry if Gustavo's watching this later because I felt a little bad, not that much bad. I was really happy. Yeah. So 1.72 points is all the danger. I watched that game. It was 24-3. I watched that fourth quarter like it was a Super Bowl. I was so into it. I was like, oh, come on. Get him.
Oh, man.
Every sack was like a gift from heaven. The pick 6 couldn't have been any better because before the pick 6 on Monday night, Daniel Jones, I think he was within a point of me at that point. So he was like right there. So all I'm like, if Jones gets a touchdown here, it's over. I lose. Yeah. And he throws a pick 6, which is negative points. And wow, I watched him go from being within a point to being back down 9 points. It was like he had to start all over again. And then I watched that little bar that goes percentage to. I was at 15% at the start of the night, at a chance to win 15%. I watched that sucker go all the way to 83.
Oh man!
After the pick 6, it was like everything just shifted. So yeah, I tell you what, sometimes in fantasy football, you end up getting blessed. And,
22 points in deductions, it looks like here. 22 points in deductions for Daniel Jones. I mean, if you're Gustavo's Rad team, I mean, you are definitely not a Giants fan. I mean, you're not a fan of Daniel Jones. There are a lot of people.
He dropped him already.
There are so many. Daniel Jones is the most dropped player already this week. Daniel Jones, unsurprisingly. I mean, if you are a quarterback in New York right now, you are down bad. You are down bad. I mean, Zach Wilson played well this week, but as far as confidence in New York quarterbacks, it's very low. Doesn't really exist. But yeah, man, like you said, man, you had a good impact from Christian McCaffrey, which is not unusual, but he had a hell of a game for you this week.
Yeah, he was monster. And I needed it because nobody else like produced for me in that game. So I really needed him to do it. And it was great because that's why that's why I wanted him when I was second in the league overall. I was like, I gotta have Christian McCaffrey. So yeah, he had 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown, 4 touchdowns overall. Unbelievable. 7 catches, 71 receiving yards, 48 points overall. I'm not going to expect that every week. I'm really not. It's just that the offense went through him this week. I usually, I'm used to getting, like, you look at the game log. This by far is big monstrous game of the year. So yeah, it was awesome.
Let me
But
see
yeah,
where else
so
you got some good points from. You had a Swift with in a limited role, which we consider after his first couple weeks, he went back to what we consider a limited role, but still got you 17.9.
yeah, it's crazy because he only got 14 carries, but he had 4 receptions and 23 receiving yards. So he is good out of the backfield with the receptions. So in a PPR league, it comes in handy to have somebody like Swift out there. So it's been nice. But I could have gotten so much more had the Eagles not limited him to 14 carries, which I thought was crazy that the way that game played out. It was really weird.
Yeah.
I expected more.
Brandon Ayuk also did well for you.
Nice.
So you got 61.5 points.
Yeah.
It looks like from the Niners alone. So right now that offense is helping you out a lot, man. It's just the Niners alone. And having that, I thought your defense, I was surprised that New York Jets put up so many points on Kansas City because they have been playing well, but that game turned into a little bit of a slobber knocker, and we'll get into it because I have, Chiefs of my own.
Yeah.
With Mahomes, man. But definitely, you got a modest game from Herbert. See, he's coming up questionable. What's going on with him? This is one of Herbert's worst games of the year against Las Vegas. Interesting, man. And that defense really gave him some help this week, man, with Matt getting 6 sacks.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I think what affected the Chargers, well, the defense for the Raiders played much better than I've seen them play this year because I really thought it was going to be a big game. He saved me with 2 rushing touchdowns, which was nice, which you don't normally get. And so that gives you a little bit of extra points. So it could have been much worse. So I'll take the 29 because my other quarterback is Cousins, and he only had 14 points. Cousins had been solid so much. Cousins started the season out with 33 fantasy points and then 53 and then 42. So it was kind of hard to bench him, but I took the matchup with the Raiders as an advantage, and I'm lucky I did because if I would have started Cousins, I definitely would have lost.
Yeah, I didn't foresee Cousins having that poor of a game against Carolina. I didn't. That was a little bit of a shocker to me. I kept peeking in on the game, and I was like, man, at one point I think Carolina was up, and I was like, man, the game's a struggle right there. But like you mentioned, man, when we started off the pod, man, was David Montgomery. That was probably the biggest surprise of the week. 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, and with 2 catches. I mean, he was just. I mean, I just couldn't. I was sitting there watching the game, and I was like, no way they're giving it to Montgomery again. Touchdown. I was like, we just got off of online, and we're talking about, well, we're not sure with Gibbs, and I thought it was solid advice. It was logical advice, but he is clearly the workhorse. I think when Gibbs, and we'll get into Gibbs as well too, because I went against Gibbs this week, and I think what they saw from Gibbs the week he wasn't there, this hole right here, they didn't see what they wanted yet. Now, Gibbs is a rookie. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? I know he came out of Alabama. Let's not forget he started at Georgia Tech. Now, colleges don't determine how well you will perform or what type of career you would have in the NFL, because it wouldn't be a lot of Jerry Rice wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if we just went off of colleges,
right?
Mississippi Valley State. But anyway, so yeah, man, as you can see, man, I tell you what, going forward, you have David Montgomery. It's going to be hard for me to tell you not to play him, man. With 32 carries, he is clearly RB1, and in Detroit, and the way that offense is moving, and the way the defense is playing as well too. man, I think Montgomery is end up going to be a must start every week for you, Lee.
It's got to the point this week for sure that I'm going to have to put him in there because they're playing Carolina, the 4th ranked rushing defense, against the run, and Green Bay was the 5th. So that one, like I said, I thought that would have been a great matchup for Gibbs, but that, like I said, I did not see them giving the ball to Montgomery 32 times and then 2 targets out of the backfield. But he has 5 rushing TDs on the season. Because he the first 2 games of the season, like I say, you showed he got 13 and 12, which isn't bad for your running back for, like, especially if you're playing him in the flex, it's okay. But it's going to be really hard to bench him against Carolina at least. And then you really got to look and play the matchups and then watch and hopefully he doesn't get injured. I've been, knock on wood, I've been lucky with the injury bug on both my fantasy teams. I have a ESPN league team too. So I've been watching and hoping and praying that I don't get hit because I got a couple of players that do get hit, like Keenan Allen, and he usually gets hit with the injury bug every year. So I had to, speaking of Keenan Allen, real quick, I had to decline a trade because of, and normally I would have accepted this trade, no questions asked, but it was based on how they're playing this season. I was offered Jamar Chase and Josh Jacobs for Keenan Allen and Tony Pollard. Now, normally I wouldn't even have thought twice about that. But Jacobs just had a good game, like his first good game of the year. And Burrow is the problem in Cincinnati right now. Either he's injured, he's not playing well. So this guy was clearly trying to dump 2 named players. And I was like, oh man, think of my team with Chase and Jacobs. And then I was like, no, I can't. Now this is in my ESPN league. It's not in this league. And I was like, man, I can't do it. I gotta keep him going. But yeah, interesting stuff. Let's talk about your matchup because you had a really good one. I thought it was low scoring.
So one of the, I'm always the one sometimes complaining about, oh man, everybody go up against, scores all these points. I'm always going up against the guy that scored a lot of points, man. Why can't I be that guy that just so happens to go up against the guy that scored the least amount of points? Well, this happened this weekend for me. As you can see, I beat the only person I could have beaten. I beat the only person I could have beaten. Yeah. Sometimes it's better to be lucky. Sometimes it's better to be lucky.
Yep.
And went against my brother this week, and he was at my house. We were sitting there watching the games on Sunday. And it was just crazy how, got there Thursday. So we watched Gibbs, do, not as much as we expected him to do. But here's a little hint for you, Lee. I never keep up with my scores throughout the game. I never check my phone really. It's just too many alerts, the fantasy, I think my boy Fred hit me up at halftime, called my phone be going a little too crazy. So sometimes I like to just sit my phone down. I even take my Apple Watch off so I don't even get notifications. And I just sometimes just want to watch the game and not be looking at my fantasy football every 5 seconds, because sometimes it can ruin my mood and can ruin my Sundays. And sometimes I just want to have a good Sunday and I wake up extra early, and especially if I start to drinking about an hour before the games go, I just want to sit back, chill, and just watch football. And sometimes I never even look at my team until the Sunday night game. Oftentimes, that is a fun fact for you. So my boy came over. I didn't even know I was losing in my other league. My boy came over like, man, I'm dominating you today. You see that? I'm like, actually, no. But and he was like, man, you see AJ Brown tore it up. I'm like, I don't care that AJ Brown had a great game. You think I care that AJ Brown had a great game? Do you know me?
Yeah, right.
So that's what it was going to take for my Eagles to stay at 4-0. Them's the breaks. Yeah. But yeah, man, I never really looked at it. So I never knew, even though my brother was here the whole time, I didn't know I was winning the whole time. I did know going into last night's matchup that I had DK Metcalf and he had Kenneth Walker III. And man, lo and behold, I'm really glad that DK got that touchdown early, man, or the game did not go anywhere near like I thought it was going to. But once the score did pop up, at one point, I think when DK scored, I just looked at my phone and like a little preview popped up. I seen I was up 20, and that's when I knew. I was like, damn, I'm up 20.
Yeah.
And of course, once I see that I'm up 20, Fant go down at the 1 yard line, and then Kenneth Walker scores his touchdown. He goes quiet the most of the game. And soon as I look and see that I'm up 20, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He rushes for and gets a touchdown. And I'm like, up here we go again. Me playing defense with my brain while I'm watching football. So, but I did get lucky this week, man. Patrick Mahomes, I mean, way below the game I thought. He was hot dogging it out there. Some of the interceptions he threw, I was like, come on, Patrick. I mean, I get if you're Patrick Mahomes, you have 2 Super Bowls, you know, you're paid a lot, you're living your best life, but that he really let me down, man, this week. I'm glad I didn't really need him.
He floated. You know? He floated a bunch, like effortlessly, just like it wasn't even challenging for the defense. But the biggest one that made everybody who had money on the game mad, and most of his fantasy owners mad, was when he had it right on the. It would have given him a 10. Why even go out? It gives you a 10-point lead. It's not like the Jets are going to come down, score a touchdown, get an onside kick, and get a field goal. But I guess that's what you do, because then they could run out the clock. But it's like, oh, man, because they would have covered the spread, and it would have given you a rushing touchdown, another 6 points, a little bit of cushion for the fantasy owners, would have given you 29 points. Yeah, that was a crazy game. It was a weird game, because I was texting with a friend, non-fantasy related, and we were just joking about how, you know, the announcers were trying to keep everybody interested because Taylor Swift was there and all that nonsense. And it was like, man, we have no faith in Zach Wilson. This is going to be a slaughter. This isn't even going to be worth watching. And I got to give it to him. The Jets defense is a great defense.
Oh, yeah.
It is a tough defense to play. The Eagles got him in 2 weeks. I'm not looking forward to that game, especially if Zach Wilson starts playing with a little bit of confidence.
That's a trap game, man. I think the Jets game right before that Miami game, I think it's such a trap game. But I could talk within lengths about that.
But at least the Eagles know it's coming. They know it's coming because they've seen it now against the Chiefs.
That is a good
point. So at least what happened to the Chiefs, hopefully they see that tape and adjust accordingly, because we do not need Zach Wilson throwing for 300 yards and beating the Eagles, because it's in New York. Good Lord help us. But we'll see. You know.
Yeah. I did have a few bright spots on my bench. Nico Collins, man. Yes. I played him last week, and then Tank Dell went off, and I heard they were best friends like AJ and Jalen Hurts was. So I was like, oh, man, let me switch it up a little bit. Maybe he won't go back to Nico like that. I was terribly wrong. I mean, Nico had an incredible game.
Yeah.
And he was on my bench, man. And then Khalil Herbert finally came alive. I mean, the Chicago Bears finally came alive on offense in general. So, you know, somebody has to score. And I couldn't believe they blew that game. I looked back at the score. I said, what? When the fumble 6, I don't know, it was a pick 6 or fumble 6 that tied up at 28. I was just like,
fumbled,
whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's crazy, man. You know, Joku, you know, even he had his best game of the year with a burnt face. That was so crazy to me. Did you see how he showed up to the game with the mask on? It was pretty dope. It was pretty dope.
Halloween. Actually. It is Halloween, so you know.
That was pretty dope. So yeah, man. I don't have a lot of hope, man. My only hope is that Jonathan Taylor somehow comes back for some team at some point this year. So I don't have a whole lot of pop, because Mahomes and Kelsey, I don't think Kelsey even caught a ball to the second half or something like that.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen every game.
For sure.
But Kelsey still outscored Njoku. You know, Kelsey's going to be the man. And,
for sure.
Who they've got this week? They're not on a bye, are they? No, because you're fine.
Minnesota.
Yeah. That's a horrible defense, dude. Freaking Mahomes should have 50. Kelsey should have 30 at least. You should be fine there. That's a horrible defense.
While I'm on Kansas City, I must say, man, I'm already over the Taylor Swift stuff. I'm just going to be that guy. You know, if the Swifties want to fill up the chat, then cool. We'll still get. Yeah. But, bruh, I knew it was out of control.
Yeah.
When Isaiah Pacheco scored, and they cut his celebration off. We are watching football.
Yeah. And
Pacheco's score. His family is at home waiting to see what he does. And they're showing Taylor Swift, unrelated to what just happened. I was like, I'm done. I am, clout is just the biggest drug ever right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a little disappointed. If Travis Kelce scored, I get it. If Travis Kelce scored, I get it.
Yeah.
Isaiah Pacheco ran the ball. And they still showed Taylor Swift. And I was like, I'm over this. And then they're advertising their movie. I'm like, man, this is all just one big promo, whatever.
I was texting again, same friend, and I was having fun with it. Every time something happened, I was laughing so hard because you're right. It's Pacheco's TD. It's not even Kelce, but it's the Sunday Night Football crew that are like, get her on camera as much as possible. I told my friend, I said when they did the player introductions, right after Travis Kelce went, Travis Kelce, tight end, that Taylor Swift should have come on there and went, Taylor Swift, girlfriend? That just moved on. But it was that bad. But yeah.
Not even a long-time girlfriend. Not even a fiance.
No. That's the Taylor effect. She has, literally so many fans. It's ungodly. It really is. And so they're going for a new demographic. So we're going to have to deal with it if you're watching the Chiefs game for a little while. I do want to mention one thing real quick on your lineup. Nico Collins is pretty much, looking at the rest of your lineup, is pretty much almost going to be a must start now because Houston, it used to be like, okay, maybe it's Houston's schedule that CJ Stroud is doing so well, and Tank Dell and Nico Collins. No, they're good. They're good. And so good on you for having him. I think that's been determined. You may have a couple of down games. You may have a couple of 10-pointers. But over Thielen right now, especially if Bryce Young comes back, you really got to go Nico over like Thielen. And then Tutu Atwell coming up against the Eagles. If they're still wounded in the secondary, I think that, they're saying even freaking Kupp might be back for that game. And if they've got Kupp, Atwell, and Puka Nacua, I just know that's just going to be a sad game for the Eagles on the road. I'm not looking forward to it, dude. I really am not. And so those are going to be
Stafford.
Big numbers. That's the only way. So they're going to have to. Here's my thing on the Eagles defense. So we'll talk about that real quick because I know they've got injuries in the secondary. So that's a rough thing. So, but what I don't get is if you've got a good front seven and you have Nicholas Morrow blitzing, he had 3 sacks, which is amazing for the young guy. And you've got all these players up front, but yet you're not in press coverage or you're not up on the receivers. Because what you're doing when you play off 10 yards and you've got a good pass rush, you're giving the quarterback outlets everywhere. So it's 5-yard slants, it's little hooks coming back to the quarterback, and then your guy's out of position anyway. That deep zone is one of the worst defenses. We've talked about it for 3 years now on this podcast. It is the worst defense I've ever seen. Now, Sean Desai, the defense coordinator for Philadelphia, hasn't been running it, but I think because of the injuries to Sidney Brown and Maddox going out and having a different slot corner, having Joby on the corner, he went to it, and it did not work. So if you play up on LA's receivers, then that pass rush can get to Stafford. Otherwise, I don't think they have enough time to get to Stafford if we're not trying to keep their receivers honest and and stay on top of them off of it. I ain't worried if Puka or Kupp or Atwell get behind our defenders, because by the time they get behind Slay and Bradbury, Stafford should be on his back. That's my opinion. So I don't like the defense. I don't like it at all. So Tutu Atwell might be a must start next week.
I feel you, man. McLaurin looked like a superstar. I'm not saying that he's not, but man, we made him look really, really special. But I guess the crossing routes. Yeah, the crossing routes have been killing us. Slay is always 4 or 5 yards behind the crosser.
Yep.
That route, they just know to go there. Every team almost does it to us now. They pretty much just run crossing routes. They don't even do a lot of the out routes. They do comebacks and crosses. But they know when they need it the most, go across the middle in the Eagles. because our linebackers, we have downhill linebackers. We don't have really drop back and coverage linebackers. Now, is that scheme? Could be, but our guys can tackle, especially Cunningham. Shout out to Cunningham. I think he's having a great season so far with especially, downhill tackling. We got Blankenship back, so we have our, another big tackler there. And when Sidney Brown comes back, we'll have those. We'll have everything back that we need. But, man, coverage across that middle, it was a problem last year, and it's still a problem this year. So that's just my little take on the Eagles defense. But it is Tuesday, and most of you are putting in your waiver wire picks for this week. One of the reasons why we even do the pod on a Tuesday is not only to recap from the week before, but to look forward to this next week coming up and see who's out there, what injuries have happened throughout this week, and who you can pick up on that waiver wire. Now, going into week 5, anybody that we didn't know about has probably already been picked up, but there are still guys out there week to week that are doing it. So some of my top picks for this week, man, just looking at last game, one of the top pickups I think, man, is going to be this week is Michael Wilson. Mm-hmm. He had a solid game last week. I know it's a big jump from what he's been doing, but man, it seemed like when the going got tough for Dobbs, man, this was his go-to receiver. Like I said, it's week 5, so you should already have your lineup pretty much set. And if you have you need somebody on the waiver, I'm not saying if you have the number 1 waiver, maybe use them, but if you have maybe 6 or 7 and you're like, I can pick up somebody just in case something happened, I think Michael Wilson is a good pickup this week, man. That's probably one of my number 1 picks this week. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, Jaleel McLaughlin, Javonte Williams went down. He's not going to miss a lot of time with that hip injury, but if he misses any time, man, this dude stepped up and he was effective. 19 points, 19.4. I think that's more than Javonte has gotten this year just by himself. He is short. He's 5'7". Yeah. So he's definitely, he's one of those scat backs, one of those guys that getting lost behind the line. But those are my 2 guys that I think is definitely worth a look and a pickup this week on the fantasy waiver wire. What do you think, Lee?
The McLaughlin pick, I like a lot. What scares me, I mean, it depends on who you're giving up. Now, you look at who's on bye this week. You got the Browns, the Chargers, the Seahawks, and the Buccaneers. So if you have Kenneth Walker, you definitely need someone to fill the gap. Same thing as if you've got Ford for the Browns or, Rashad White. And Austin Eckler's still been out, so we haven't had him for a while. So, like me, I'm dealing with no Keenan Allen on my team, so I definitely am looking for wide receiver help. So I like both of those picks, but the McLaughlin pick, the only thing that scares me about off of McLaughlin is looking at what he's done previously when he was behind both Williams and Samaje Perine. And so he has a great game against probably the worst team in the league. Probably. Mm-hmm. I won't say definitely, but probably the worst team in the league. That doesn't really, and then you're going up against the Jets this week. I'm almost confident, and I don't, again, if you want to put a waiver claim in, don't just do it because I'm saying not to. I'm almost positive that if Javonte Williams can't go, Samaje is going to get the start, and then they'll work McLaughlin in. It's just the way coaches do this crap. The older veterans will get the start. Now, I'm not saying Perine's going to be good. I don't think either one is going to be good this week. So if you're putting him in just as a bye week guy, no. Now, here's the kicker on McLaughlin. McLaughlin is if you get him and you may start him, he may flop this week. He's somebody that showed a lot of promise. He showed a lot of burst. So he could be the next Kyron Williams of this season. Because in my Yahoo league, I picked up Kyron Williams when actually all the waivers had cleared. And I didn't think I was going to get him. And so he's just sitting there the morning of the waiver wire. And so I put him in 30 points for me this weekend. And he's been consistent. So McLaughlin has that type of potential. I do. Yeah. On the other flip side, Wilson, if you're going with Dobbs and you're looking at who's going to, because he really doesn't have a rapport with Hollywood yet. So who is his guy, like you said? And right now, it looks like he wasn't getting anything before this week, but they had a really tough matchup in San Francisco. That impresses me. And
Right.
this guy is putting up numbers against one of the better defenses in the league. So if I had to prioritize what my needs were, I would probably go Wilson first because that's impressive to me. And I think Dobbs has shown that Cardinals may not win a ton of games, but that guy's got heart and he's going to be fighting. And so they could be scoring some points in the receiver side. Connor's done better than I thought he would in Arizona this year.
Yeah.
Really
I like
solid.
those all white uniforms too. That thing was
Yeah.
crispy. I kind of like it. Kind of remind me of the Jake Plummer days.
Yeah.
Of the
Hate their coach. Coach sucks.
of the Cardinals. Another person with T. Higgins going down. We don't know how long T. Higgins is going to be out with the rib injury. He could be very well back next week.
Yeah.
However, the targets, anytime any T. Higgins or Jamar Chase goes down for the Bengals, Tyler Boyd is one of their, he steps up. I think he's still a captain on this team. But you see the targets every week, 8, 9, and 7. The Bengals just aren't playing well, period, on offense. Right. I mean, 3 points against Tennessee. I was really surprised by that performance, man. that was just insane. But then Derrick Henry busts out, and he has one of his best games of the year. So, once again, I want to remind you, it's week 5. Most of the guys have been snatched up off the wire. Most teams are settled, but there are still a few guys out there that you still can pick up week to week. You got Dotson, who did score a touchdown late. 9 targets. Now, I don't know if that's just because of the Eagles secondary.
Yeah,
it's just somebody else, man. But ankle injury, not good. So those are the few guys that I had in store, man, for this week. Some folks that you can pick up. May not even start this week. It could be a wait and see for some of them. Like I said, if you have a lower waiver pick, I wouldn't spend the number 1 waiver wire. I would wait till something significant happens. But, week 5, week 6, man, a lot of us are just picking up other guys have already dropped, and
Right.
different matchups, different week to week. A sneaky pickup this week, not really that sneaky, but Detroit's defense.
Yeah.
Detroit defense going against Carolina. You can see, they've 14, Seattle, which was very surprising that they got whooped by Seattle like that as far as from a fantasy football perspective. But 26 last week against Atlanta, 17 the week before that against Green Bay. And, man, you could probably look for them they're already projected to get 14 points against Carolina. So that could be anywhere 14 to 17 points, man. It's a lot of little, I know the Detroit Lions, but, so you don't think of them when it comes to defense. But, if Hutchinson gets going, they all get going. CD, he is out on the IR, but they continue to just fill spots. And they're just an aggressive team in general.
Anzalone, Hutchinson, this isn't your father's Detroit Lions. Because, honestly, I'm your father, and I grew up in Detroit. So let me just say, these aren't the Lions I grew up with. I mean, I grew up with the Barry Sanders Lions, but the problem with the Barry Sanders Lions is that's all they had. I had the Megatron and Stafford Lions, but that's all they had. They would build their teams around one guy and then just milk that guy for merchandise and ticket sales and never build a team around him. And this is a different team. This is probably the most complete Lions team I've ever seen. And I tell you what, to beat Kansas City and be the only blemish on Kansas City's record right now, and then to do what they did in Green Bay. And Green Bay wasn't playing poorly. They were competitive. They came from behind and beat the Saints. They beat the Falcons. Granted, they're not the best teams in the league, but Green Bay wasn't playing bad. And Detroit clearly established themselves as the number 1 team in the NFC North. That cannot be disputed right now, because you can't say it's the Vikings or the Packers. You can't. And we definitely know it ain't the Bears. The Detroit defense is probably a really good pickup if they're still on your waiver wire. I have a few of my own that I could throw out there that I have. My problem is that I don't want anybody that watching be in one of my leagues because I don't want them to know what my targets are because these are guys that for me when I look at targets because I have a pretty good team. I'm not trying to brag, but I have a pretty good team in both leagues, and so the thing is what I'm looking for is future stars. Like when I said I picked up Kyron Williams, that was luck. I wanted him, knew I got him, and he's been paid off ever since. McLaughlin is one of those picks in Denver where he's going to pay off in the long run. And I still think I have Keenan Allen in my ESPN league. I still think Quentin Johnson, who is available in like 49% of the leagues, I think he's taken in ours, but you can look him up. They're on bye this week, so this is clearly a move if he's available in your league to stash a player that with Mike Williams out, who is going to be the better guy? Is it going to be Joshua Palmer or the rookie Quentin Johnson? And I tell you right now, we've seen nothing from Palmer yet. It's all Keenan Allen. I think that was one of the reasons the Chargers kind of struggled this week is there was no Mike Williams. So I think that Quentin Johnson is going to see a lot more targets. He's going to see a lot more snaps. So he's somebody that I would pick up. Another one that I like that I'm starting to warm up to is and if you want to look him up, you can. I'm just going over some people. It's Quentin Johnston. Sorry about that. It's with a T. But numbers aren't great. Numbers aren't great yet. This is all about potential in this type of situation. And another one that actually has great numbers that I'm looking at for a receiver, especially for me this week, since I have Keenan Allen on a bye in my league, I'm starting Marvin Mims. He didn't have the best game against the Chicago Bears, which you think that he would have. He's not available in our league, but right now in most leagues, Marvin Mims is about only rostered in like 28% of leagues across all fantasy. So he had 20 points against Washington, 16 against Miami. He only had 6 against Chicago with 2 targets. But I'm holding out hope that this week, even though they're playing the Jets, I'm hoping that Sauce isn't lined up against him. But I got no choice really. I've got Keenan out. And my backups are that's the one thing in my ESPN league that I'm suffering at wide receiver. I got Brandon Ayuk, and I had Keenan as my guy. So I'm hoping that Marvin comes around for me. A couple of others to throw that out there. Ty Spears from Tennessee. They have Derrick Henry, no doubt about it. But Spears actually had in that backup role for he actually had 40 yards carries. This is somebody that if Henry goes down for any reason, he's a nice stash on the bench. He showed a lot of potential, and Tennessee loves to run the ball. So it's one of those future stars that could come into play if anything happens to the big guys. Quarterback wise, now I'm going to say this right now: if you're looking for a backup, well, we got King TV online right now. He had Mims and started in week 4, so it didn't go so well. But just stick with him. I think against the Jets, I wouldn't have high expectations. It depends on what you've got out there. But I would stick with him in the long run because I think that he's going to be a target for Russell. He's about the only one out there. Judy too, but Judy's been underperforming. But on the quarterback front, if C.J. Stroud is available, and he's still available across 40%, he's only rostered in 40% of all fantasy leagues across the board. He's a must grab if you're quarterback poor or if you're just middle of the road quarterback. This guy, we've watched it now. He's kind of established himself. He is the guy right now. He is playing out of his head, and I think that's going to continue. Don't get Sam Howell from Washington right now based on the Eagles' performance. The Eagles' secondary was very decimated by injuries. They were playing well off the ball. If you want to look at Sam Howell's numbers, look at what he did prior to the Eagles game, and you look at the numbers that he had in there. You're looking at C.J. Stroud. So look at what he's done so far. Look at C.J. Those are outstanding numbers. If you got that quarterback in the 9th or 10th round, you'd be killing people right now. The guys that picked up Joe Burrow are screaming for a guy like this right now.
To your point, when it comes to C.J. Stroud,
yeah.
Outcast picked him up probably an hour before the game. He was at my house. I literally watched. We were sitting across. He picked him up about an hour before the game, and he got high score this week. Beat Melo. But yeah, he started him. So somebody in our league started CJ Stroud and got 38 to show for it, man. And then man, it was a big move for him. Who did he start? Yeah, he benched which is huge. You know, he benched Trevor Lawrence against Atlanta for CJ Stroud. That is just, I ain't gonna lie, that's a pretty gutsy move, man. Because I thought,
gutsy.
you know, but I remember you talked about last week, Lee, that when teams go overseas, they tend not to have as much pop in their game, you know, even though, you know, it was just an easy win for Jacksonville. But yeah, man, you know, to your point, man, Stroud, boom, plug and play, putting right in, and man, but he got high score. This is with Debo's, you know, scoring nothing. I didn't even know that. I mean, Debo's been hit or miss every other game, it seems like.
And
But
he's got the injuries going on right now, so it's hard to trust Debo.
Mm-hmm.
Ayuk and Debo been going back and forth on the injury, so you got to keep an eye on that. But back to Sam Howell real quick, and you can pull his numbers up, but it doesn't matter. He's had 27 fantasy points, 23, 23, and 21 against in the first 4 weeks, and all of a sudden he's kind of a hot prospect because he's throwing for yardage, but he's only thrown for 4 passing touchdowns. He's had 5 interceptions, but look at who he's played. The 7th ranked passing defense in Arizona, the first, when I mean 7th, they give them 7th most fantasy points. The worst passing defense in the Broncos. Then when he played one of the toughest in Buffalo, he had 23 points, but he only threw for 170 yards. And then against Philadelphia,
he had negative 6.4. He had that's the negative. That was the projection.
That's the total. Oh, okay. Yep, that's right. He had negative 6. Yeah. So he had 21. He had 32 against Denver. That was his only real game. And then against the Eagles, he has 28. But the Eagles are really suffering against the pass. So it's one of those things. You know, now he's playing Chicago. So this week, probably a good play if you do get him and you have your quarterbacks on bye. I will say that he'll probably be a good play this week because Chicago doesn't even want to be out. When I watched Chicago play that game, after that game against Denver, when Fields fumbled it and Denver came from behind and won, I don't think that team wants to be out on the field anymore. I just think they want to just go back on vacation and try again next year. So I think Sam Howell might have going. Then you can look at he's got Atlanta, the Giants, and he's got Philly again. Now that I look at it, maybe he isn't a bad pickup. He's got some defenses that he can score on. But again, to me, he's one of those. I wouldn't pick him up if I have a better option. Like I have Herbert and Cousins and Goff. I'm going to stick with those guys. But CJ Stroud is somebody, if he's available, definitely pick him up. The only other ones I have out there, like I said, we talked about Wilson. If Rashid Shaheed in New Orleans is still out there, Jaden Reed and Green Bay or Dobbs is still out there. Again, those are guys that I give high recommendations to. In our leagues, they've been snapped up, but they're still showing as projected being out there. So you can take a look at those guys to fill those by need. We have a quick thing from Kang TV. He said he's getting the trade itch, and Gang TTV, I should say. He's getting the trade itch, and he's curious if we glance at the team and give him a quick thought. I think just to see who he'd be safe to trade and what kind of range he would get. So this is his team overall. He's got Allen, Saquon, injured right now, Khalil Herbert, Watson, Gabe Davis, Hawkinson, Marquise Hollywood, Keenan, Rashad, Marvin Mims, Jaden Reed, and Zach Charbonnet. All right, so trying to see who would be attractive. Saquon's probably going to be your most attractive trade bait, and we really don't know. He's going to come back, and what you could get for him in a trade like that, because you look like Watson is underperformed. Gabe Davis has been pretty solid most of the year. So you may want to, you've got some needs. You've got some needs and running back. I don't even know if I'd get rid of Saquon at this point because your running back, you got Rachaad White, but you more need wide receivers than anything, it looks to me.
I mean, when you
got Keenan Allen, but he's on his bench right now.
Right. You have Keenan Allen. So that's huge.
Yeah, that is
To
big.
have Josh Allen and Keenan Allen
Yeah,
is
that's
huge.
Yeah.
And to have CJ Hawkinson.
Yeah.
He's been having a hell of a year so far. And then with Saquon and his injuries, it's like, man, you don't know, but what you do know when he comes back, he's definitely RB1 because Breda is not doing much of anything. So I guess you're probably looking to fill the wide receiver area, maybe. Maybe. But you have Gabe Davis and Keenan Allen, you should be fine there. You're gonna get that extra bonus points from having that quarterback to wide receiver. Does anybody have anybody on the trade block? Is there anybody you were looking at? Said it's tough. I'm like, running back or wide
Yeah,
receiver.
the thing is, to me, if I look at like who I was going to start week to week, it would be I would have, because of course you got Keenan in this week, but week to week, Keenan, Gabe, Saquon, of course he's injured, so that sucks. Allen, Hawkinson. So where I see that Khalil Herbert's really not been producing as well, so you may want to look at that second running back spot and what you could get. Rashad White's not a bad start, but you need to be able to offer something to get a solid back.
There you go.
I tell you what, before you go trading, we talked earlier about some of the potential guys out there. See if you can grab Jaleel McLaughlin. That might solve your woes. I don't think Kyron Williams is available in your league, but you can look at him. There's a few other backs out there that might help you. Trying to look at who the best one would be. That would be better than Khalil Herbert. Really, McLaughlin's the biggest one that I see out there because Spears is backup, Dowdle is a backup, Chuba is not doing too much. So yeah, really, if you can get McLaughlin, he's got the one that has the highest upside. So you said you think would he get stunted if RB1 comes back? Well, it depends. Yeah, Javonte Williams is not got a serious injury, but he has his injury history, so it might be worth the risk for now to try to get him. Some of the guys that you got on there, I mean, Zach Charbonnet, I would say that he's kind of expendable right now. He might get you in a PPR league. He might get you a few points. So you may be able to put him and try to get McLaughlin, who's got a higher upside. Because Kenneth Walker, unless something happens to him, you're not going to see a lot of Charbonnet. That showed on the Giants. They were playing really well, and Charbonnet didn't see the field too much. Charbonnet more expendable than Jaden Reed. Depends. They're about the same in my eyes right now because it's all potential at this point. So you're not going to start Jaden Reed right now, probably not as a flex until you kind of see that Jordan Love gets in a kind of a rhythm and has a favorite receiver. Right now, Watson's probably a better bet than Jaden Reed as far as that happening. So yeah, either or. I don't know if you guys have limits on my ESPN league has a limit on how many running backs and wide receivers that we can have. So that a lot of times I do wide receiver for wide receiver and running back for running back. So
yeah, with Khalil Herbert just coming off of a solid week.
He's a Packer fan.
Oh yeah,
5 minutes from Lambeau. Makes sense. Yeah,
I think unless you're trying to package together like Charbonnet, Reed, and maybe Marvin Mims for somebody, then maybe for wide receiver out there. I don't know if somebody's like, but I don't know who's going to give up anybody for those type of folks. I will say this, man, if you have Rashard White, I think that's a good position to have, man, because with Saquon coming back, and he will come back eventually. I think you should hold, man. I like your team right now. I think if somebody offers you up something, maybe you can try to see if somebody in your league is desperate, then maybe you can do like a counter, and then maybe throw in like a Charbonnet or a Reed in a desperate counter trade, and then try to get somebody. But I think the only person that you could maybe part with that's still a solid starter is Rashad White. Everybody else, I just don't know if you're going to get anybody for them. All this, Charbonnet, Reed, and Marvin Mims. They may be guys you drop when you pick up somebody from the waiver wire.
Yeah, I like
I like
Mims
your
for
team right now. I know I
potential. I
said
like
it's
Mims for potential. I think that he's already had a couple of really good games, or
yeah.
actually really one. But I think that he's somebody that I would
I
I
just
would
don't
want
know
to
who
hold
he
on to.
gets back for
Yeah,
him that's worth the trade. You know, you know what I'm saying? A lot of times, man, when you trade for somebody, okay, nobody's gonna give up a solid running back for Mims right now. That's just not gonna happen. It's mainly it's because he's on the Broncos. People are scared of the Broncos right now. He's getting points, but they're on the Broncos.
no, nobody's afraid of him. You got to look at too where he's got potential. The big thing is look at the matchups and kind of look at where the pass defense and run
Mm-hmm.
defense is, since this is your first time playing fantasy football this year. So you see that the next game he's playing, Marvin Mims is playing the Jets. So again, don't expect a lot. Then he's got KC. They're giving up the 24th. So when we see that red, that means that's bad. They're the giving up the 24th least amount of points to wide receivers. So he's got the next 4 weeks of some tough pass defenses. So you got to really factor that into when he starts, because the Broncos are just not good.
Yeah, man.
So I still think that he's one of those guys that is a flex that can get a big play, because that's what he's been doing for Russ, and Russ likes to just chuck it downfield. So yeah, so that's tough.
Yeah.
I would say that it's something that you're just going to have to gamble on. But yeah, I think that one thing to consider is that we're here Tuesdays and Thursday nights. So if you have a trade offer and you want to run it by us, somebody that that you're going to offer for or try to get from, and somebody offers you something, you can run it by us before you hit that accept button. If you do it between Tuesday and Thursday, which is a lot of trades happen right after the week anyway, so that could help your problems out.
Absolutely, man. I would say, go over my picks again. Just Tyler Boyd out there with T. Higgins being down. If you're looking for a wide receiver, maybe try to pick up Tyler Boyd. I know you want to trade, but right now I'm not sure if you have enough need for the trade. So maybe look to that waiver wire, man. The fantasy waiver wire. You can look towards that, man, and see if you can pick up some future. Because when you have a solid team, another good fantasy football strategy, just talking strategy in general for over a full year. When you have a team that can win and it is solid, oftentimes you just want to try to see how you can get the future. And the reason why earlier we were mentioning the Jaleel McLaughlin is because if anything happens to Williams again, I mean, he's been injury prone. We know when he does play, he is a solid back, but he has a lot of injuries. So, are you that guy that picks up that Kerryon Williams? Are you that, that goes further, with the Cam Akers trade, and you have all this stuff going on, investing for the future. I remember, yeah, man, a lot of it does come to that. You look at my team right now, you want to talk about a gamble. This is not a no, this is not a big deal. It's not like it takes a genius to do, but I still have Jonathan Taylor on my pup list. He's just worth it for me, because I know the more the season dwindles down and people get injured and hurt, to me, Jonathan Taylor is the best back in the league, right now. I mean, Christian McCaffrey is the best back in the league. And then you have Jonathan Taylor when he's healthy, is up there with the best of them. Offensive rookie of the year. Not rookie, offensive player of the year. So that's never nothing to sneeze at. You can consider yourself the best offensive player in the NFL. Man, that's that's some bragging rights there. So, investing, man, in your future, man. So Williams, maybe not somebody you need right now, especially with Herbert coming off a good week. If Saquon comes back, I don't know when he's coming back, but White is the top dog there in Tampa, and Khalil Herbert is the top dog with the Bears, man. He just needed the whole offense to get going. I have Herbert as well. I'm just like you, man. I have Herbert. He's been iffy all year, but then, boom, he finally has a solid game.
Yep.
But look who he did it against.
Yeah,
a team that he should have did it against.
Yeah, that's true.
So then we go back to Washington, who stops the run. So I'm never going to judge the Eagles on if a team can stop the run, because I think the Eagles just have something there.
Yeah.
There's something about chemistry. on the line, when you can block and know that a guy is going to be there, I think that's just where you start getting, tiers and levels, and that's just where the Eagles at. So it's hard to talk about the Eagles, but when it comes to Washington defense, get a little stingy. But I'm sticking with Herbert, and White if I was you, because you can get a lot of points up from Gabe Davis. You can get a lot of points from Keenan Allen. You can definitely get a lot of points from Josh Allen and TJ Hawkinson. So you're not really desperate right now, man. You're not really desperate right now. So
And one thing is, like, this part of the year, running backs are at a premium because they've all been snapped up, and anything that's a potential has been snapped up, so they're hard to find. However, injuries occur. So, like you say, you pick up Jaleel McLaughlin, and he's turned out to be good for you. Ty J. Spears. But another potential thing you can do is target some of these wide receivers and be able to supplant some of the weaker players on your bench. That way, if these guys start doing good, you've got trade bait.
mhm.
You've got people you can trade. So the ones that we highlighted tonight is Michael Wilson from Arizona, who looks to be the guy for Dobbs. Quentin Johnston, Johnston, Johnston. So sometimes I was looking for him on the waiver wire, and I thought it was Johnson. So that's why I throw in the T.
Oh yeah.
And another one that we haven't even mentioned tonight, and I meant to earlier, and I'm going to mention him now, is Jameson Williams from the Detroit Lions. He's only rostered in 24 fantasy leagues across the board. Jameson Williams, if he's in your league available, I would target him today because Josh Reynolds has been doing great in Detroit. But Detroit is liking to spread the ball around. Now, he has not really showed anything yet. However, he had his suspension reduced. He was supposed to be able to sit up the first 4 games. He's now active. He still has he's still on IR, so I don't think he can play until week 6, maybe 7, but I think it's 6. Do they have him projected for anything this week?
They haven't projected 7
So maybe
points.
he's able to play. I knew he was
7
active, but I had read somewhere that does it say in the injury that he's dealing with the injury still?
Can't play 60 plays this weekend. That's the only advice I'm seeing. So they're going to bring him back on a limited basis, regardless of the suspension.
Right. So he may not play a lot this week, but if he's available, he's somebody that could be the potential to be a breakout star in Detroit with Amon-Ra St. Brown on the other side of him. Amon-Ra draws all the coverage. So Jameson Williams has the physical ability, just like Quentin Johnston, to be a star in the NFL. It's just a matter if he puts it all together or not. Physically, those two guys look outstanding and are going to be stars. It just matters when. So those guys might pay out for you, may supplant your own starting receivers, and then you've got trade bait elsewhere. So who knows? So anyway, that's my big ones for this week.
Yeah. So Lee, you have any other final advice before we get out of here? That was just, that was perfect right there. But you have any other final advice for anybody looking to get somebody off the waiver wire tonight?
Yep, that's the big ones for me. Those are the big ones. CJ Stroud, quarterback. Maybe Luke Musgrave at tight end if he's available. Those wide receivers and those running backs we mentioned too. Luke Musgrave, Tyler Boyd, if you're really in need of a tight end. Right. Some people really, really are. He's not shown it yet. The Green Bay game sucked, but it wasn't indicative of the targets he was getting. They still got a ways to go in Green Bay, but he got on our radar. What's that?
He's in concussion protocol right now, and the bye week coming up with Luke Musgrave. Just a little FYI for you folks out there. Must have took a hard one.
I forgot that he did get knocked out of that game against Detroit, because we were talking. He was on our radar last week before the Detroit game, and we were looking at him going, that wouldn't be a bad start. And then I watched the game, and he got knocked out like right away. Right. So that's why his numbers were so low against Green Bay. So he may not play this week. So he may not play. But again, you got Hawkinson, Kang TTV, but anybody else that is weak on tight ends, he might be a stash. Tyler Boyd played well with Washington. So, but that's about it. Actually, Tyler Boyd's with Cincinnati. I met Logan Thomas with Washington. My brain wasn't working.
Yeah. Nah, man, that's great advice. Like I said, man, we just a couple of dudes playing fantasy football just like you. If McLaughlin's out there, Wilson's out there from Arizona, go ahead and put in the claim and come back and tell us how it worked out for you. On our next episode on Thursday, next show on Thursday, we're going to get into week 5, our starting lineups, our matchups in our league. And we're going to run you right up into the game, to the start time of the game. So you have any last minute questions, any last minute itches, let us know. Come holler at us over here on the Fantasy Waiver Wire. And we hope you have a good season. Keep coming back. Like, comment, subscribe on our products, man, or Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. All that good stuff, man. And with that said, man, we appreciate everybody coming out just as fast as we can. We are gone.
Bye.